is that Queen Saint Isabel of Portugal, in her Book of Hours, which is in the Machado de Castro Museum in Coimbra, has an illumination that invokes Saint Michael as Angel of Peace. We know that Pope Paul VI gave the title Angel of Peace to Saint Michael when he designated him patron of the police force and all of the soldiers that keep the peace. But before that, King James of Aragon, the father of Saint Isabel, had the knights of his orders consecrate themselves to Saint Michael as Angel of Peace in a shrine on a mountain. And in this shrine, they had the very unusual relic of the wing of Saint Michael, the wing of Saint Michael. And of course, there's many medieval strange relics, and I thought this was one of those strange relics until I found out that there was a much more ancient image of Saint Michael that was venerated at this shrine, and there was a fire, and the image burned, and the only thing that survived was a silver gilded, the wood had been covered and sheathed with silver, and so the wing survived. And they kept this wing of the statue of Saint Michael as a relic of Saint Michael's wing. And this was the King of Aragon, James, was the father of Saint Isabel. So the knights went to this mountain to pray to Saint Michael as Angel of Portugal, as Angel of Peace. When King John I built this monastery, the Holy Constable and the king had prayed to Saint Michael for victory, just as King Dom Afonso Henriques, the first king of Portugal, had prayed during the taking of Santarém from the Moors. And during the taking of Santarém from the Moors, he said that the wing of Saint Michael had appeared in the sky and accompanied him as he was fighting the Moors to reestablish Christianity in Portugal. And at Santarém, on the feast of Saint Michael of Gargano, Monte Gargano, May the 8th, it shone the brightest. Now, in my research, we found out that a petition by King Edward, whom we saw here, King Edward had petitioned the Pope to canonize Dom Afonso Henriques, the first king of Portugal. And one of the reasons, he says, that he was a very holy man, because Saint Michael appeared to him at the eve of the battle, and there was a star that in flames that accompanied the king during all of his mission to reestablish Christianity. And looking at the records from NASA, I was able to discover that in that year, from March until October, there was seen in the skies of Portugal what appeared to be a flaming wing. And this was Halley's Comet. Halley's Comet had also been responsible for the apparition of St. Michael's wing at the Battle of Hastings. And so when the medieval man saw comets, they believed it was the fiery wing of St. Michael, because there was only the angels could be up there doing something. And so King John I, remembering, and St. Nuno, remembering the ancestor King Afonso Henriques, at this dire moment when Portugal was about to lose its independence and its national identity, he decided to invoke Saint Michael, and he invoked him as Angel of Portugal. Previously, he had been invoked as Angel of Peace. because sometimes, why is the angel of peace and he has a sword? Because sometimes the only way to obtain peace is through war. Because there are people that are invading or other countries or whatever, and then the only way to stop this is to have a war. So the angel of peace is actually sometimes the angel of war. And St. Nuno remembered St. Michael because when he was doing the battle standard, and every general had a battle standard, the battle standard is usually a fierce-looking animal to provoke fear in the enemy. When you see the standard, it's a dragon or something. But St. Nuno went to the Old Testament. And in the Old Testament, there is a passage that says, before the kingdom of Judea went to battle with the Persians, the angel of Israel went ahead to speak to the angel of the other country to obtain peace, so that there would not be any bloodshed. So thinking of this, St. Nuno did this for his battle standard. So this is a battle, it's supposed to be a fierce standard. He divided the camp in four squares with a red cross, remembering Sir Galahad, the cross of Sir Galahad. And on the bottom squares, he placed the patron of Portugal and England and the patron of Castile and France. And they are St. James and St. George. And not placing them in a fighting position. They're kneeling with their helm and their weapons on the side, and they're both looking up to the image of Our Lady of Victory holding the infant Jesus. On the other camp, they have the scene of Calvary with Christ crucified, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and St. John. So he is remembering to Our Lady. Remember what our Lord said at Calvary. Anything that we ask of you, through you, you will grant. So he has both the patrons of both sides praying to Our Lady for peace. And so this is a magnificent symbolism and something that's unique in battles in medieval times. So John II remembered all of this. John the First remembered all this, and King John I made a vow that if they were victorious, he would have the largest Dominican monastery built, and he would make it obligatory that the Dominicans would celebrate the office of St. Michael as Angel of Portugal every day. And so they would meet here in the sacristy, and to be reminded of this, he had this panel painted, which depicts the twofold image of St. Michael as angel of Archangel, Angel of Portugal. As Angel of Portugal and Angel of Peace, knowing perfectly well that he had taken this role, he was St. Michael, and he accepted this role that was, he didn't say he was the Angel of Portugal and Peace, it was the kings of Portugal that appointed him the Angel of Portugal and the Angel of Peace. And so he accepted this role because he is, of course, the general of the armed forces of heaven, and Our Lady was made Queen of Portugal. So he is serving the Queen. And so this is the oldest reminder that we have, besides the book with the illumination that I mentioned of St. Isabel and the retable of Manuel III. This is, I guess, the second oldest proof of that consecration, and which was, of course, accepted because the angel himself appeared at Fatima under these titles of Angel of Portugal, Angel of Peace. And if you recall, as I said, he looked like a child. And when I spoke to Sister Lucia to describe St. Michael, the Angel of Portugal, Angel of Peace, to me, she said, at a distance, he was a pure light. As he came forward, he was like a crystal, but in the form of a man. And although a child, gentle, He seemed to command such power that if he winked his eye, he could destroy the universe. So that shows, that he did not appear with armor and with swords and everything. He's just a little child.